is experiencing.
This meeting is being recorded.
Nice.
Got it. This TCGIS community is experiencing collective grief at the unexpected passing of David Meese, who brought so much joy to the school as the 4th through 8th grade drama teacher since August. Beyond our collective grief, individuals are grieving in their own way and their own timeline. Our teachers and staff lost a colleague and friend. Our students lost a teacher they admired and loved. Our parents lost a collaborator in the education, guidance, and care of their children. While we can't understand this sudden loss, we can support each other through the process of grief. Since we learned of his passing, it has brought some comfort to share memories of the impact David had at TCGIS. I'll ask everybody to take a moment of silence to remember David and the happy experiences we shared. Thank you. In the obituary, David's family shared that he dearly loved the Twin Cities German Immersion School, its faculty and staff, and most of all, his amazing students. David felt strongly and often spoke passionately about creating a better, more equitable education system for both teachers and students. So, as we proceed with the school board meeting tonight, let's let David's passion inspire us to continue in our work toward that vision. All right, we have a few housekeeping items to take care of. Vice Chair Wright, could I have a motion to approve last month's meeting minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. And then I'll move to approve tonight's meeting agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Hartman. Any discussion on the agenda tonight? Karen, do you think you want a public comment period after your presentation? Because right now it's scheduled before.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, so I'll propose to move the public comment agenda item to after agenda item 7, the state of the school address.
I have a question. I'm going to be talking about the election policy, and that may entice us to change the election window that we approved at the last meeting. Does that need to be noted at this time, or just?
We can just bring this up during the governance section. Yeah, thank you. Okay, all those in favor of, is there a second to that amendment?
A second.
Thanks, Director Hyde. All those in favor of approving that amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right. All those in favor of approving the agenda as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Thank you. Our amended agenda is adopted. So this brings us to our special recognition for the evening. We have lots of things, but maybe we don't have access to them. But tonight we're recognizing the mentor teachers who served as mentors to our fall interns. We're also recognizing our intern host families. And then we'd like to recognize the TCGIS leadership for their crisis management and leadership. share your screen.
I'm not on the Zoom call, but I can.
Oh,
Where is it? You emailed it out.
2 days.
okay. Is anyone pulling it up on the Zoom call?
I got it.
Okay, thank you. All right, Director Cleansing, could you please recognize the mentor teachers and the host families?
Can I turn on my volume now?
No,
Okay.
we have the microphone.
Oh, it's good. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to recognize those teachers who mentored. We bring in interns every fall and a new set in the spring. And those interns come from other countries. And we have teachers in the building who take these interns under their wing and really teach them the ropes of teaching and TCGIS. And they're very important to the program. Interns are a very special part of TCGIS and something I have not seen in most charter schools that I've ever worked in, especially interns from another country speaking a whole different language and bringing a really important part of education to the school. So I applaud our mentor teachers, Anka Krug, Leonie Manis, Valerie Gerlitz, Margaret Sims, Scott Stevenson, Luke Jansen, Heidi Schultz, Chris Tabish, Amy Peter Schmidt, Claudia Mueller, Katrin Gilhoff, Anna Miller, Kevin Eberhardt, Ren Malk, and Sam Graff for making sure that that's a successful program and that those interns have a great teaching experience.
And we have two in the room today, so how about you two stand up and let us recognize you.
Where's the other one? Where's the other one?
And in order to have interns in the country, from another country, we have to have host families. And it's not always easy to open your house to strangers from another country, but our intern host families show the utmost of hospitality and care in hosting our interns. And we want to thank the Roberts and Powell family, the Quant family, the Pearl family, the Thies family, Marga Bilger family, the Weston Miller family, I'm sorry on the names, I should have learned the pronunciation, Savaray family, the Chelsea Partheimer family, and the Kiddock family. So thank you for opening your homes and making our intern program a success.
Okay, and finally, the board would like to recognize Karen Cleansing, Elizabeth Zenfenig, and Kim Hackett for their leadership through this recent crisis for our school. Kevin, would you like to start with your remarks?
Sure. Obviously, we've heard already tonight how difficult the last few weeks were for the school community, and I think especially difficult for school leaders to lead during that time where everybody's kind of not feeling that. And from a teacher perspective, it was just a very good feeling to feel supported throughout this process, have really clear communication throughout, being really understanding, compassionate, having grace wherever it was needed. I remember finding out on the day off, multiple admin members checked in with me, and that's just great to see and shows the kind of community we have. And you could tell throughout the whole building, and I think it was because of the leadership that kind of showed the way. So thank you for that.
Thanks for sharing that.
I didn't email you, but can I say something?
Of course.
The 3 people listed here, have continued to impress me since the day they joined, all at different times, but I'm continually impressed by all of their leadership and other skills, and that the last couple weeks have shown that they are the right people in the right positions, and they impress me again through how they handled a difficult situation. So thank you for being here and for stepping up, as always. And thanks again, Elizabeth and Kim.
I know Elizabeth and Kim appreciate this. You're not here today. It's been hard on everybody. And so, as you said, we'll all be continuing to have grief. We are still checking in on the kids. They still have class in this room. This was Hermese's room. And the staff too, everybody's taking some extra time to do self-care and show each other grace in this process. But I think we're coming together as a group and really appreciate the acknowledgement. It has been, it's something that most schools don't go through. And when they do, I think it brings everyone closer together if we all show care for one another and follow the values of TCGIS. So it's definitely an honor to be here, and we appreciate the acknowledgement. And I say that on behalf of all the admin, and especially Kim and Elizabeth. The 3 of us, we're working pretty tightly for quite a few days to make sure that everybody got the right communication at the right time, and that the family's wishes were honored. So thank you.
Did any other board members wish to comment? If not, I have a few remarks. Despite experiencing their own shock and sadness when learning of David's passing, Karen, Elizabeth, and Kim recognized the importance of their roles in supporting the entire school community through this crisis. Thankfully, with the support of the MAX crisis management team, they had some support through them. They communicated the information to the staff in an emergency staff meeting on Friday, January 12th. An email to the whole community was sent shortly after that meeting. The information was shared with compassion and attention to accuracy of the available information. Grief counselors were available to TCGIS staff over the weekend to call for support. On Tuesday, the professional development day, the leadership team held staff meetings in the morning and in the afternoon to share any new information that they had. They thoughtfully planned how the educators would share their news with students when they came to school the next day. And they offered them support in that process if it's something they couldn't do. The leadership organized time for staff grief circles, both in person and virtually. They met with David's family and gave them time and space to see the school. That David loved. They were there for students to help them process the next day. Karen, Elizabeth, and Kim met the needs of the staff, students, and families, all while experiencing tremendous grief themselves. So the board recognizes all that you put into the school, and that we see that you put the needs of the community and David's family first. And we hope that you are now able to prioritize self-care. Would you like a recess before the presentation?
Thank you.
All right, let's take a 5-minute recess. Are we unmuted? Okay, it is 7:14 and I'm calling the meeting back to order. The next item on the agenda school address from our executive director, Ken Clinton. We're excited to hear everything that's going on.
Thank you. So every board meeting, we do an executive director report. It's not always as comprehensive. Sometimes we're more focused on specific topics. But today I thought I'd go over kind of this a broad general overview of the state of the school. Since it's the beginning of the year and kind of the middle of the year at the same time. It's the beginning of a calendar year in the middle of a school year for us. But it's a time when most of our data from last year is finally done being culled. And also a time when we're starting to look at that data and to make decisions for next school year. So this is kind of the state of things at the moment. And it's meant to be an overview, so there may be many, many details people would like to know more of. You have my email. So, all right. So our mission, as we've stated today, is innovative education of the whole child through German immersion. It's not just a thing we say, it's something we try to use every time we make decisions. So if it was, we're trying to decide what classes to offer or which direction to take or which curriculum to buy, we're constantly coming back to our mission, vision, and values. Andere Hören, andere sehen, Welthoffen, Denken und Handeln, educating multilingual world citizens who listen to others, see others, and think and act with an open mind, is our vision. This is where what we hope to see our education do for our students. And we hope to do that with values of curiosity, kindness, challenge and support, community, and intercultural engagement. We do this with 20 elementary teachers, 17 middle school teachers, 12 licensed student support staff, 5 licensed special education teachers, and 5 licensed administrators. We have 55 kindergartners, 72 first graders, 72 second graders, 68 third graders, 64 fourth graders, 66 fifth graders, 59 sixth graders, and 69 seventh graders, and 53 eighth graders, all of whom are very, very important to us and our work. We also, though, have staff that support all of the teachers and students in carrying out this mission with 9 operations staff, 7 education assistants, 5 front office staff, 25 kinder club staff members, 6 in food service, 2 librarians, 9 interns, and 5 reserve teachers. We hire more teachers than that through our subcontractors, but these reserve teachers are specifically Twin Cities German immersion teachers, and we're very excited to have those folks on board this year. That's kind of a new thing this year for us. We have the board here tonight. I report to the board, and then to me reports our K-8 principal, Elizabeth Zenfenig, and our director of operations, Kim Hackett. If it's anything having to do with teaching and learning, Frau Radicke is the dean of students. The dean of students, the lead coordinator for SPED, the teachers, academic curriculum assessment, special education, German immersion, social work, and school psychology are all programs that report directly to Principal Zenfenig. And then our international programs, communications, enrollment, recruitment, transportation, technology, nutrition, wellness, facilities, childcare, extracurriculars, subbing, and human resources and finances all report through Kim Hackett, our director of operations. And then I tie all of that together, and then sometimes I sub in for either of those. Today I had the principal hat on and had a lot to do with teachers and learning today. So that was a fun day. And then, so what I do at the green level is I really try to strategically make sure that operations and the teaching and learning are all working well together. And then I coordinate that implementation with the board's strategic initiatives. Most recently, every year, we have a visit from our school authorizer. It's called our annual site visit. So they come on site, they actually, they do this one's the annual written review. So they do an annual review every year. This was in June of 2023 that they reviewed the school for how things went last year in 2022-23. And part of that review did include last year's site visit, which was sometime in December of 2022. At that time, at the end of the school year, the authorizer rated Twin Cities German Immersion School Student Learning Program a success at a number of 3.42 points out of 4, saying that classes are engaging, challenging, and students are supported academically and emotionally. They said that the school's financial health was strong at 3.25 out of 4 points. An active finance committee, conservative budgeting approach based on realistic projections, and a strong fund balance all contributed to that scoring. And then they said it was the organization received 3.1 out of 4 points for being effective and well run and committed to student success. So that was our review for last year in 2022-23 that we received in June. It is more of a 50-page document, if anyone ever wanted to read that. It's great bedtime reading. So we do, though, look at that and take that to heart and try to improve on anything that we weren't perfect at. But these are relatively high scores for charter schools, and we're happy to report those out. Then again, I said that site visits were something that the authorizer does. They come in, they interview students, they interview staff, they visit classes, they see how the classes are happening. They talk to teachers and they talk to administrators, they talk to the board, they talk to students. This year, our site visit was on December 14th, 2023. And the authorizer said students seem to be used to school again, a much better start to the year. And this is nice to hear. A lot of schools are still coming out of what it was like to do school during the pandemic. And even last year was still feeling like one of those climbing out of the pandemic years for many schools. But this year, the authorizer was seeing or observing that TCGIS looks like it's come out of that and is starting to look like it's back to the normal school year. The way that the authorizer characterized that is they saw higher expectations seem to be back, both by administration, teachers, and teachers of students. This was refreshing to hear and also to see demonstrated in their classroom visits. So that's very helpful for us as we move forward. It gave us a little wind under our wings. The authorizer also noticed that the leadership change is bringing a sense of calm. The board feels like a partnership and is supportive. The budget is conservative and more stable than previously. Staff morale felt better and more effort was being put into support, especially teacher support, especially with new teachers. The authorizer noted that more behavioral support had been added and teacher retention was remaining high, with 85% of teachers staying, and 30 teachers have 5 or more years of experience at TCGIS. In all of the focus groups, these are groups that the authorizer meets with. I don't sit in there, nobody on the board sits in there and tells them what to say. They ask anything they want. And they meet with the group separately. So they'll meet with students and then they meet with teachers and then they meet with board members. In all of those focus groups, it was mentioned that the administration is supportive and clear with their goals. There's more transparency and things are communicated in advance, so there are no more surprises. I'm sure there were a lot of surprises during the pandemic, but so that helps that we're out of that. The authorizer also noticed strengths of communication from teachers to parents and from the school is rated highly and is timely. Because the authorizer also talked to some parents. There's a group of parents they heard from, and teachers are passionate about immersion, and the school stands behind their mission, especially about global citizenship. Mental health support is becoming more embedded into our school, and discussions of mental health is becoming more normalized, and there are more qualified adults to have those conversations. Students were in agreement that the learning program at the school is good and that the teachers care a lot. So this authorizer feedback from our site visit in December was very helpful because it's an outsider. It's somebody who does not spend their full day in here, and it gives us an outside perspective on what they see when they come into the school. We also have, as a school, some accountability to the strategic plan of the board. And they have milestones in 4 key areas: innovative teaching and learning, where we met 11 of 13 benchmarks in the 2022-23 school year. We met 3 of 4 in the area of school culture and engagement, met 12 of 14 milestones in diversity and belonging. And 5 of 5 milestones for financial sustainability were moved to 23-24 because there were some very important, critical day-to-day operations things that had to be dealt with last year. And the strategic plan had much more long-term milestones. So we just moved them to this year now that we have more time to work on those strategic financial milestones. One thing that we have noticed is that teachers come to stay at Twin Cities German Immersion. While other metro areas have faced and continue to face over 500 teacher vacancies in the metro on the first day of school, we were fully staffed at that time and have been since the first day of school. Any positions we've posted have been positions we've realized since then that we would like to add. Our FY23 to 24 teacher retention for core grade level teachers was 85.5% for K-8 and 93.33% for grades 5 through 8. We've maintained competitive academic proficiency of all students. We're competitive with other benchmark non-selective dual language immersion schools. Sometimes we get compared to schools that offer dual immersion programs that are part of their full school program. Those are not good comparison points for our school because in those settings, not every student learns in the immersion setting. They go to a separate program in that school and they learn in that school. Or they learn the language only in that program. Here, every student is learning in an immersion setting. We don't have a separate program for them. And so we have to compare ourselves to other benchmark schools that operate the same way we do. Those are schools like Yinghua Academy, where it's full Chinese immersion school. Our students perform better than the state by 20 percentile points. They perform better than the St. Paul School District within which we reside by 40 percentile points overall. Our student performance has been increasing since 2019, and the reason we're looking at that benchmark is that 2019 is when the year 2019-20 was the year that the students went into the schools closed down for the pandemic. And so that any data after 2019 is not very reliable or valid assessment data. All student cohorts are seeing increases in proficiency. More than half are seeing double-digit increases in academic proficiency from 23 to 24. Our non-white and multiracial students' achievement is at my screen, higher levels than the state and district. We'll see more about that on some upcoming slides. Here are reading achievement levels for 22-23. And the reason you see 22-23 data is because 23-24 isn't over yet, so we haven't taken the test yet. We are usually don't get this data all cleaned up until sometime at the end of June. So the earliest we can usually report it out is sometime around August when it's officially public. You see TCGIS in the middle there. And you can see L'Etoile du Nord and Yinghua are comparison points because those are two schools that have full immersion programs that are non-selective. And we are performing, our students are reading proficiency is on par with similar program schools. But in compared to the state and the school district within which our school sits, geographically speaking, we have more students proficient than the state and the District of St. Paul. So we're trying to get our reading back to pre-pandemic levels, and we are making progress, and that's what you can see with the 2023 trend line. So we want to see that trend line going up. We obviously want to see it go up for all grade levels. And sometimes we don't see it in every single grade level, but that's what we're watching. So our reading proficiency is trending in the right direction. Our math proficiency, according to the state math test, shows that our TCGIS students are maintaining or increasing their achievement levels, the same rates as our benchmark schools that have similar programs. And more of our students are maintaining and increasing their achievement than students in the state and St. Paul. And our math proficiency rates, again, by the purple trend line, are going up in most grade levels. And this is something that we are monitoring. This is our goal. Some grades are doing better than others, and we haven't quite got the purple up to the blue line in grade 8, but that's what we're trying to do. Percent proficient on the math MCA, you can see the 2021, 2022, and 2023 graphs are showing our TCGIS white students and statewide are in green. And if you compare our non-white multiracial students to the statewide non-white and multiracial students, you can see that TCGIS students are doing much better. And that's in the math. For our reading proficiency, similar, you'll see the dark green and the white green represent the state, and the dark blue and the light blue represent TCGIS. Our students are also growing in their language proficiency. The overall passing on German proficiency exams, you can see the grade 8 students are at 80% or more. Grade 6, they're at 60% or more. And grade 3 for 2023, 60% or more. They were a little higher in grade 3 in 2019, and we're working to get those students back to 2019 levels. But again, we're still coming out of a couple of years of slower growth, like most schools. And then grade 6, you'll see our 2023 grade 6 students have already caught up to pre-pandemic levels, and grade 8 is almost on par. Our DSD-1 German proficiency exam, you can see the reading, the write is in blue, the writing's in red, listening is in yellow, the speaking is in green, and the overall passing rates are in purple. And I feel like Catherine Gilloff or Kevin Eberhardt should probably speak to this better than I, can probably speak to this exam better than I. But what this is showing us is the rates of German proficiency on the exam, but not all students take this. This is for students who, are they opting in, or are they taking it based on their language achievement?
Sure, opting in.
Okay. So they're opting into this, usually because they want to take it and take the DSD-2. Why do they opt in?
Yeah, to
Do we have a high?
see where they are and get to the DSD too.
Do we have a high rate of opt-in?
I would say it's larger than it used to be.
That's good. So this shows us the trend lines here for the DSD-1 for overall passing have really kind of come up to 2019 levels again, if you look at the purple line. So also, I mentioned just recently the DSD-2, which is something that students can take when they move up into high school and have engaged in full immersion there. All 10th grade immersion students scored, sorry, I figured out my screen. So in 2021-22, we had 20 ninth graders matriculate into the German immersion program in the high school at Central. In 2022-23, we had 37 students move to the Central High School German immersion program. And in 2023-24, we had 44 students move on to that program. And all of the 10th grade German immersion students scored at an advanced level on the ACTFL scale on their stamp last year, earning the Platinum Bilingual Seal and the highest level of that award. So there's a strong program building all the way into the high school. Even though TCGIS doesn't have a high school, we are many of our students are matriculating into that German immersion program at Central High School and able to continue all the way through to graduation. In special education, we have a dedicated in-school lead special education coordinator. That's Andrew Haugen. We have a special education teacher coordinator, Kimberly Michelin. We also have an experienced consulting on-record director of special education, Tammy Stahl. Our co-teaching program for special ed is continuing to grow, which means we have a teacher who is special ed and a teacher who is a regular ed teacher co-teaching a class together instead of pulling special ed students out into separate spaces. These classes are also starting to show up for next year's 5th graders. The more we build this program, I think the more German immersion is going to make sense with the special education program. We also have full-time in-house occupational therapy, speech language pathology, and a school social worker. It's a very well-resourced charter school to have all of these things in-house. Right now, too, we are engaged in social emotional support for students who are learning throughout the day. This comes in the form of supporting staff, supporting student behavior, supporting data-based decision-making, and supporting students' SEL and academics, with academics. The systems, we have a team that's problem-solving meetings that use data, and they use a tiered system of decision-making for that. We also have data that we're using for office referrals, things like Chromebook misuse. We have a teacher support call process so that we can get support to classrooms and teachers and students as soon as possible. We also support with practices and reinforcing expectations, responsive classroom, restorative discipline, and other SEL curriculum that we've built into our programs. We are using the Minnesota Positive Behavior Intervention System, which includes anti-bullying lessons, advisory lessons on social emotional learning. These proved in some responsive classroom and AmazeWorks consultants. It was really helpful to have had some of the social emotional curriculum done prior to some of the events of the last 2 weeks. We were really able to go back to some of the lessons and it kind of connect the dots for students on what was learned in those lessons and some of the skills and understandings now that they can bring to the processing of the grief they're feeling about the teacher passing. Some of our behavior response updates, just want to put out there that our beliefs are that all students are all of our students, and that all behavior is communication. Behavior management is 80% preventative and 20% corrective. And for some of us who are older, I'm in that boat, this is a very different response system than probably we're used to from the old days, but we're seeing it help a lot of students come around more quickly when we use these kinds of belief sets. We have Catherine Radke really leading this. She's our Dean of Students. We've made a recommitment to PBS with a strong team that's led by her and our academic dean, Esther Noy. We've updated our referral system, calling it version 2.0, and we've updated our WAPI system to keep that as efficient and productive. We have 2 German-speaking social workers, which is, to have 2 social workers is a really big deal, but to have 2 that are German-speaking is pretty incredible. We also push in support with interventionists. These are called, our tier 1 support is what's in our classrooms, and we actually have occupational therapy and speech language pathology working in that tier 1 support, and we also have behavior support helping with functional behavior assessments. 3 out of 4 behaviors that get reported to our offices are not high level. High level would be things that would possibly harm other kids or harm the kid that is there. 75% of the referrals are not about that kind of behavior. We have had, we collect the data and know that 100 fewer behavior incidences have happened this year than last year. School leadership is using that behavior incident data in regular team meeting discussions with teachers and staff on a weekly or bi-weekly basis to create student support plans. We've added these to K4. We also have child study meetings, which are important meetings for first grade to find those students who might need extra services. And we have also done some sixth grade kindness and respect intervention in January, trial implementation right now of sensory stations in first grade. So that's a preventative thing that we're doing, which seems to be working quite well for some of the first graders. And then we also have stations for professional development work and planning in first grade. These are some of the things we just talked about. The sensory stations on the far left there, those are in our hallways. And when kids go through that station, and at the end, there's some more pieces to it. You can see in station 1, they're doing some things with their hands, with all of their senses, and by going through a particular order and pattern, actually regulates them to be ready for their day. We're finding that to be rather preventative for some of our kids, and it's been great. We also have calming corners, and we've been working with sixth graders on some SEL lessons in respect, and you see one down there to the right that has now been turned into a magnet, which is being posted on lockers all over the school. Another important component of our programming is obviously the international programs, and our student exchange is a big part of that. You see a picture here of our students who traveled to Germany in May or June of 2023. And we have a group getting ready to now have 8th graders getting ready to leave in April to also go to Germany, and they'll be back at the beginning of May. We have interns. Oops. We have TCGIS interns in the fall and another set in the spring. You see pictured here 9 interns teaching in most grades and subjects who just left us last week on Friday. And then we have 8 new interns coming in on February 5th to begin our second round of interns. And 8th grader Twin Cities German immersion student families hosted 38 German students for 2 weeks in the September of 2023. And you see a picture of those students from Germany in front of downtown St. Paul.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then 37 TCGIS 8th graders will travel to Germany in April and stay with partners they hosted. Awesome program. Kinder Club is active and busy. We had 50 to 60 students in 2022-23. In 23-24, 75 to 90 students daily. So we're seeing that grow. And full daycare is in place when school's not in session, and that we usually have 40 students at it. In addition, during that time, we have enrichment classes like Lego Club, card making and stamping, Pokemon Club, Girl Power, Bastine, fantasy role playing, and woodworking.
Busted.
What's it?
Busted.
Baston?
Hmm.
Best down, sorry. Bifocals. So I should have just read it right here. For those who want to be engaged as a family, we try to keep our website up to date and active for you. There's even a new to German page and that's under the academics tab if you need it. We also have some family support groups, family affinity groups, parent council, parent-teacher organization, board engagement, and host families. Lots of opportunities for families to be involved. It's a big, large community. Our nutrition program is a big success this year with our new breakfast program. We have a higher participation rate than expected. We're serving 250 breakfasts on average, and we have 43% participation. For lunch, we're serving 400 lunches on average with 69% participation. And our wellness committee has been very active. The triennial assessment of wellness policy is something we need to do this year. So our wellness committee is working on that with the WellSat assessment tool, and that will firm up our wellness language policies and other practices in the building based on the findings we find from the scorecard that we complete. The next step for the committee right now is to assess their school practices, settings, and goals, and setting goals. We also have math team after school, diversity club, the Gay Straight Alliance, the student government by election, and a strong intramural program growth from fall 2021 to spring of 2026, which actually I think should be 24. But so this, as we grow these programs, I know the math team is full right now and has a wait list and has been very busy. I know that I think Diversity Club has been busy helping with Festival of Cultures. And our student government might be seen here soon as we work on trying to integrate some of the members onto the board. We have 16.5% of our athletics is going to soccer. Of the students who participate in our athletics program, 14% participate in cross country, 12% in the math program, 12% in the, I don't know what TNF is. Indoor TNF?
Track and field.
Track and field, oh, that's what it is. Nordic skiing, we have 14% of our athletics program is dedicated to Nordic skiing. And then we have a few other things, summer track and field, outdoor track and field, volleyball. Volunteers, we have 7 PTO volunteers with even more 7 PTO volunteers and then a whole host of volunteers behind them who help. We have 26 parent council representatives, 32 room parents, alternate contacting, 12 board members that are all volunteers, are leading 6 subcommittees with numerous parent and community volunteers. These are just the ones we can count. We know there's probably hundreds more behind that. Thank you to all of those volunteers for making this work. Community outreach this year, Como ice cream event, Lake Como cleanup, GAI Christmas in Germany, Harvest Festival, Midtown Global Market. We visited 12 preschools with thank yous for sending us great kindergartners. Minneapolis School Finder Fair. We still have coming in the next 2 weekends, Kinderstube, Prospective Family Event, and the Prospective Family Coffee Clutch on February 3rd. The leadership this year is really focused on continuing to exponentially increase academic proficiency and growth, to continue those current double-digit increases with each cohort, apply data, develop innovative methods to continue increasing growth of students' German language acquisition at each level. Use strategic recruitment to increase enrollment diversity. Proactively ensure fully enrolled kindergarten and first grade for school year 24-25. We're currently at over 100 applications. Use data to adapt and provide robust support structures for students and teachers. And with increased enrollment and streamlined spending, we hope to realize increased revenues and also set a long-term facility plan to implement over the next 10 years. The budget, our average daily attendance is 96.5%. Enrollment currently is at 96% of the budgeted amount. Our year-to-date attrition is consistent with the past years at 4.5%. And their budget is managed and monitored in meeting key financial indicators for bond covenants. We had a clean fiscal year 23 audit. And our kindergarten plan is, recruitment plan is, this data is even behind because we reached 100 this week, so. These are some pictures of the engagement. The DSD1 celebration was pretty fun. The consulate from Chicago flew in And the reason for that is because every year he signs the DSD-1 exams. And he's been doing it for many, many years. And every year, most of them came from Twin Cities German Immersion. So he wanted to go see the school where he got all of those exam certificates to sign. So he came and visited, and you can see him in that top, and some other really important folks in that top picture. That was a great ceremony for past 8th graders who came back for that ceremony. And you can see that on the far right. Then we have, we had a gratitude coffee pledge for all those volunteers that we mentioned earlier. PTO cookies and canvases, smorgasbord and the board. You can see down there on the left, cookies and canvases in the center. Our BIPOC affinity group is at an ice skating event in Fort Snelling. So there's all sorts of fun things to engage in this community. We also have a fresh ad campaign. Some of you may have seen some of these ads pop up on Facebook. We have a new bookmark that we give out that's so popular, we're printing more. And we also have some new Facebook ads. So I'll end with that. Oh, I lost my link. I don't think, well, you did it. Or not. Yeah. There she goes. That won't work. Technologically challenged. But anyway, I'm sure that if you're on the right target demographic, you've already seen this person 3 times. Because we happen to know that we've had 76,000 impressions. No, 300,000 impressions, 76,000 viewers of this particular ad.
Oh, wow.
So 76,000 viewers translates to everybody who's seen it has seen it 3 times. So, or this one or 3 or 4 others that we have. So, yeah. I think that was the last slide. There's so much more I can talk about. I'm sure I missed a lot of things that are important to people, but that's why you want to keep coming to the board meetings, because there's always new information at every board meeting. And now we'll take a few questions. We have them, right?
Thanks for plugging the board meeting. Appreciate it. Yeah, we can open it up to public comment now for those in the room. If any of you have questions or comments, just raise your hand and please share. And no pressure, but I'll give you a few moments.
Yes.
All right, Director Kritzinga.
Yeah, you mentioned the strengths the authorizer noticed when, especially with their visit in December again.
Yeah.
Did they also note some areas of opportunities or like where things can be improved?
They did provide some opportunities that we are building into, but I am not remembering them off the top of my head. So let me, I'll look those up.
Yeah, fair enough.
Good question.
Very good question.
Other questions from the board? I know you're looking things up, Karen, but I'm wondering if you can answer this question in the meantime.
Yep.
The capstone being moved a month earlier, you know, it was May, June, now it's April, May. Was that due to a lower cost, or do you know why that change was made?
Yeah, that was going to be covered by Elizabeth, but I don't know the answer to that. I don't recall hearing that it had anything to do with cost, though. You guys
You can
privy?
follow up with Elizabeth.
I will.
I know last year when we went over, it was during the last weeks of the school year, which wasn't the best timing. Maybe that's one reason why they did it that way.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
our challenges
Mhm.
from the authorizer. There's still some holes in enrollment, like sixth grade and now kindergarten. So we have lower enrollment in those two. There are higher behavioral needs in the lower grades. And this is a challenge that I know is shared by just about every school leader I have talked to. The lower grades who have had a different preschool experience than is traditional
Mhm.
are definitely coming with less experience in a social setting. We have a challenge with teacher sustainability is what they point out, how to keep teachers and attract new teachers. So we actually have with as many teachers as we do at 5 years or more, I think we definitely faced a little bit of a challenge in the summer. Again, like most schools, we were very happy to start with the full staff, but it's a challenge for most schools to be ready to start with full staff next year.
Mhm.
Students who join higher grades with no German was listed as a challenge. I think we all have heard that one before. Students mentioned a desire to update the playground and to increase the number of after-school options.
Mhm.
And then, so that was a student thing that was mentioned. And then there's a challenge of aligning beliefs about students on IEPs and students who struggle in the classroom to align those beliefs with the beliefs and experiences of some of the teachers in the building who might come from other settings. Which is, I think, realistic challenge.
Okay, thank you.
I'll put a plug in for the playground committee. That was announced in the room brief today that we are looking for members to join. So if you're interested, Alyssa's laughing because she's on it already. Just send me an email.
Yes.
Mhm.
Speaking of playground campus, I know there's a lot of work going into the 10-year plan. Can you maybe just share for others? You know, we've, as a board, have talked a little bit about it, but I think it might be interesting for others to hear about that 10-year plan.
Yeah, we're in the process of identifying the key priorities for the next 10 years. We have a significant amount of our building was built in the 50s, 60s. And we did actually have a problem this week that's going to cost us probably $5,000 to fix. And the question was, should we be fixing it or buying a whole new system? The answer is this year it's fix it because we don't have the 10-year plan quite finished, but I think it's a signal to us that we have to pay attention to the roof, the HVAC system, the windows, the insulation. So really to keep the temperature control of the building where it should be and do it in an efficient manner, we're gonna have to lay out that plan of how to fund that and get that work done. So those are really the huge priorities for the campus that are being identified, and then the next step is to figure out the implementation plan and the timeline. Did I miss a thing that those are the playground, but that doesn't, I'm more worried about the boiler breaking.
I'm with you, Dan.
Okay, well,
I'm
let's
okay with
talk more about the
playground,
playground. Could you talk about the funding that's available for the playground?
We have money from the PTO. And that's in a reserve account in our budget. Because there was a capital plan. And then there's also money for the playground from the Kinder Club, which runs, they have some money set aside specifically for the playground. So there should be enough funding to renovate the playground the way the task force is, hoping to do so. And that money has to be spent on the playground. We don't have an option. Like, we can't take the money that was raised specifically for the playground by the PTO. We can't use that for anything other than the playground. And then we can't really use Kinder Club money. There's a certain portion of Kinder Club's funds that could go towards the renovation because there's a 15%, this is getting really in the weeds. But anyway, there's money available. Yeah.
Not enough though, so.
Not enough for
Okay,
playground.
Grant
we're working
proposals.
on it
Yeah, we're
stage-wise.
working on it.
And then there's
But
obviously
we
some
still
grant
can,
funds.
plug donations and grant writing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That you do it.
How much money do you want for the playground? Yeah, okay.
I'm gonna let the committee do some work.
There's a good start then to the
Yeah.
playground fund. And there's a good start to the long-term facility plan. We have some one-time funds from the ERC money from the pandemic. And then we also have, and it's one time, we can't really use it for anything except something that is a one-time expenditure. And then there's a funding that we have to set aside by law that's accumulated for specifically for these kinds of long-term facility investments. Other questions? Yeah, Hubert?
I'd like to mention that Chris Tabish sent an email just around correcting the academic slide.
Thank you.
And he says, like, dear board, I wanted to clarify the slide about the TCGIS athletics program that was presented today at the January 2024 board meeting.
Okay.
The pie chart for the school's athletics is the budget, see
Not the
below.
percent of
It
participation.
indicates how much of the current funds are allocated to each individual sports team. And although our funds come from student athlete registrations, this pie chart does not show the number of students on each team.
Thank you,
So-
Chris Tabish. And I apologize for that. We had these slides divided up into different presenters, and the other presenters weren't able to make it tonight because of illness. And so I felt I was underprepared to present that slide, and I'm glad he clarified.
Yep. no, it's good.
Thank you, Libert.
Alyssa had a question?
Yeah, but do you have any more details you can provide about the pilot program you were talking about, the sensory? And if it continues to work, how would that expand in a future year?
Yeah, so I think the best way it could expand is us starting it at the beginning of the school year. In this case, we started this, I think around December, after we saw a need. And so I also know that in some cases you can take larger numbers of students through those sensory stations, not just students who demonstrate a need, because it's good for everybody. Any sort of sensory regulation activity is good for all students. So I know that this was a trial run to see if they were gonna work. It does seem to have reduced some of the incidences of dysregulation, particularly in the morning. And at first we had trouble staffing it, now staff see the benefit of it, and they're trying to reconfigure their schedule so they can help offer it. And I think that would be a big part of growing it, is to just make it an integral part of how we schedule teachers to take students through it. Yeah, Catherine?
Is there a plan to have a presentation about how German immersion is going to be more promoted or growing bigger in the next years? Because that is something that I didn't see in the slides.
Right, so this year we have a German immersion task force that the teachers are, actually engaged in, and I expect as soon as that work is done, that'll be an integral part of this, particularly this presentation moving forward. Work's not done yet, so we didn't have quite as much to say. But this is the first year we've had that task force as part of our professional development program, as part of how we have teachers spending their professional time is on one of 3 task forces that are specifically designed to carry out our mission, one of them being German immersion. Good question. Yep.
I have a question about the finances. First, I want to say thanks for everything, but for stabilizing finances, I know a few years ago, I guess there was some among parents wondering about how stable the finances were. So it's encouraging and feels good to see that finances are stable. And I'm just wondering if you can speak a little bit about whether Minnesota's been kind of keeping up with inflation and giving financing and funding to charter schools, this one specifically, or if TCGIS is exploring different kinds of revenue streams, or how that's kind of working.
It's a very good question, and I think I'll add that slide that you have created about the amount of funding TCGIS gets compared to other charters
Yeah, I'm aware
and
of that one.
other district schools. And we're definitely at the lower end of per pupil funding. So it just speaks to the efficiency with which the school really attempts to do their budgeting. Some of the support programs that we have this year are mostly funded through a significant grant that was applied for called ADSIS. That was thanks to our team of support specialists who put that out there. So I do think grant writing and federal fund acquisition, to the extent we can qualify, is definitely part of our goal. Elizabeth made a joke to me the other day because we were asked if we wanted $81 of some fund. So of course we do. There's something we can spend it on, but every little bit does end up counting and adding up eventually. So there's a lot in that question. So we can, we're not, so is the state keeping up? So the state gave education, state funding, they gave us a 4% and a 2% increase over the next 2 years. That does not keep up with inflation. And it's 80% of our budget is really teachers. So we really value teachers, and so it's likely that a significant amount of our increases will go to our teaching salaries, because we know the 4% and 2% isn't keeping up with the inflation that we're all seeing. So it's hard to say. We kind of can't project out super far. We do it, but it's all based on a lot of assumptions. And so every year we're creating a working budget that works within our means. So this school has a very healthy general fund balance. Is it around 31% right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, 31%. So that's a good sign that the school knows how to keep its budget within its means. But it does mean we can't go out on a spending spree or pay people all the time what we think they're worth. So.
Yeah, I'll add the 4% this year was, better than what we've seen for a while.
Yep.
The 2% next year is very disappointing. But ongoing, it was touted that they were going to tie general education funding to inflation, but they put a max on it. So basically, I don't think we're gonna see more than 3% for the future, which is obviously not keeping up with inflation. So I think another part of your question was with other revenues. So that's something that was a big part of those 5 goals that got moved from last year to this year.
Yeah.
You know, obviously it's been on our radar that we need to come up with other sources of revenue if possible because of, you know, the lack of state funding that we are seeing. So that's being thought about and has been for quite a while, but it's a big challenge. So,
Yeah.
Good question though, thank you.
Yeah, it's a good question, and we are working on a couple of other revenue streams that at least one of them is probably a 2-year endeavor, and the others are looking for grants.
If you read the strategic plan, the financial sustainability section, that's a big part of what the focus is listing ideas that we could explore for new revenues.
Oh, okay.
And we're always open to new ideas
Yes.
as well.
And I think it's also important to mention that it's important to keep the enrollment numbers up or to increase them. That new strategic initiative Karen mentioned there, I think it's very, very important that the word gets out and the enrollment increases. I think that's the best way to generate revenue in the first place.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a good one to keep at with for quite a while, although we do cap out at around 640. But we still have room to grow there,
Mhm.
so, which would help a lot.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Director Cleansing. We'll take another recess for 15 minutes.
Every time.
She likes it. She likes it.
I mean, that was a gift.
I mean, you have to.
I think we're gonna have to retire that, which you do.
Oh, that
Nobody else
gets
deserves-
passed on.
Nobody else deserves a hammer.
You're gonna have it next year.
Unless that's a deal, unless it's a deal. Then we'll figure something out.
Guys.
Very good. What are we having here?
Thank you.
It's snack time. Well, this is the new plan for snack time for you, because you read after you go to bed. So I want you to take snack time to do any homework. So I know you have assignments in German that you have, and I know
do it. It's very un-Minnesotan of me.
Just take the last one.
You're supposed to break it now.
Huh?
You're
Break it
supposed to
down,
break it now.
offer it.
Okay, it's
There's actually another
8:35.
box.
It's 8:35 and I'm calling this meeting back to order. Let's start with our board liaison verbal report. Let's see, Director Smaka, could you start with your report as the parent liaison?
Yes. So I met with the parent group and learned a few things that they were kind of navigating from parent feedback. One of them was concern about shoveling snow on the playground, which we haven't had to worry about much this year yet. I think it was an issue last year of students potentially falling on the ice and things like that. So unsure of what feedback they got from the grounds people, because there still is potential for snow coming. And then there was a request from administration to get parent feedback about conferences and the structure about conferences. And then they're working on ideas for creating these little mini series for new parents who are new to the school. So a little course or lesson on using Infinite Campus, or you know, coming to meeting, joining meetings like this, committee meetings or things like that. So creating a little kind of mini get to know the school sessions for new parents. And then also working on helping create a kindergarten readiness for new incoming kindergarten families. Yeah, and that was what I heard at the meeting.
You know, Karen, if they connected, like how does it work if there's a concern about snow removal and what the plans are? Do they connect with you about that?
So this is a parent concern?
Parent concern.
From what I heard, they were going to email the grounds people, but I don't know.
I mean, that's the most direct way to get the message, because that's who would control that, and yeah. But if they're not getting a response, or then I can definitely connect with the housekeeper as well. If you want to give it to me, you can transfer that. Okay.
Yep.
So if I understand the request correctly, the parents want to know what the plan is for removing snow on the playground.
Correct.
Last year, when the parent council came to present, we talked about how it would be great for the board to hear from them and administration to hear what kind of family traditions or school traditions that maybe haven't come back since the pandemic and they want to see them back. You know, it'd be great to know what people would want to see or what they miss, if anything. So I'm curious if they've been able to talk about that this year.
I have not heard anything about that, no.
Jimmy?
I could bring that up.
That'd be great, thanks.
Was that someone on Zoom trying to speak?
I'm not sure, but they're not permitted to speak anyway, so.
All right, thank you, Director Smaka. Staff liaison, Dr. Hyde.
Well, the staff council is in full swing now, and it's more robust than it has been in past years. I think there's 6 regular members, encompassing all aspects of the staff, so that's great. I've been to 3 meetings now, 2 of which have stemmed around the staff survey, which is now a collaboration with the board survey and admin survey. So those results should be available to, I don't even know when they'll be available. I think the staff's also doing a book club, and they talked about a lot of other staff extracurricular kind of activities that have been happening.
Great, thank you. Regarding the survey and the results, I think the plan is to meet the first, like February 2nd or something. The teachers wanted to get through grading and the first
Or
semester.
after the second, yeah, because that's the grading day.
Yeah,
That's what it was.
okay, so after grading day. We'll get together and analyze it together. All right, and I'm the administrative liaison, and Karen and I met on Tuesday for our regular weekly meeting. And I think nothing major came out of that. I'm just looking at our notes.
Well, there's always a lot of to-dos that we go do, but
Yep.
globally, we just talked about the last 2 weeks and how that's been handled.
Mhm. Yep, kind of regrouping after that. All right. Academic officer verbal report, Director Albers.
Yeah, starting with both the curriculum advisory committee and the special education advisory committee meet Monday. So
Wow.
if anyone has a dog babysitter, let me know. I'll be there for both of those. So that there's not much to update from there. I will say last time the special education advisory committee met, there was a good grouping actually from the time before. No one had shown up. So that meeting went off without a hitch. So I'm looking forward to hearing more as we continue to dive deeper into their year. And then the curriculum advisory committee, I believe this is the 3rd time we're meeting this year already. So working on our goals and figuring out the rest of the things that need to be done for the rest of this school year, but looking forward to seeing everybody back at that again. And the wellness committee is currently working with governance to amend or change things in the wellness policy from governance. However, we were supposed to meet last week and decided to postpone that meeting. So with limited capacity to focus on something like that, we wanted to make sure that we do it with due diligence and it was not good timing last week, of course. So we'll be hopefully meeting after semester 1 ends and starting those changes to get the policy up to par for what it needs to be.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, next up is the board committee reports, and we'll start with fundraising. Director Wright.
Yeah, we met on January 10th, had a good meeting. Year to date, we're at just over $59,000, which is about $9,000 less than where we were at year to date last year. So we'll be working to make up that difference throughout the remainder of the year. The committee is sending thank you notes to anyone who has given to the TCGIS annual fund over the course of this year. So appreciate their help to share our gratitude because it really does make a difference. Another thing that we're working on is identifying fundraising opportunities that are external to our parent community, knowing that people are kind of tapped out. So looking at different ways that we can raise funds through external partners. So we've compiled a spreadsheet that will be available to the committee members and hopefully any other extracurricular or school-related group that's looking to fundraise, specifically thinking around capstone, some of the athletic programs, band, things that are part of our school community that might need extra funds without competing with the solicitations that we make for the annual fund, because obviously that's the top priority. Looking ahead to spring and exploring some opportunities there for different ways to engage various audiences, including grandparents, extended family members, things like that. So we have some things in the works that we'll let you know about as we flush them out a little bit more.
Great, thank you. Any questions on fundraising? All right. Communication and Outreach Committee, Director Smaka.
So we met January 16th. We talked through some of the subcommittees, including talking about the logo and what affinity groups or clubs, things like band, can do with the logo. So I think what we decided and landed on is to create some sort of kind of guidelines around using the logo. And our amazing Paige is going to be working on that. We also talked about the Charter School Advocacy Task Force. There is a sign up in the Rune Brief to join that task force with Julie. We are looking for an alumni relations parent who has students both who have graduated from TCGIS and currently have students in TCGIS to help with some alumni engagement. So if there's any parents that are out there or you know of who might be interested in helping, that would be wonderful. And then Paige and Katerina, I have an update of what they've been working on. Paige has been doing a lot of work with outreach and getting our name out there and bounce some ideas off of us of how to potentially reach some new families where parents hang out, things like that. So we had a really great meeting around some strategies of reaching more families out there. And then our last thing on the agenda, which we didn't really get to, was talking about the role of the committee since we have Paige in her communications role. And so we decided to kind of think on it and table it for our meeting next month of how we want to support Paige, what we want to do as a committee, and kind of move forward with that.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, next on the agenda is diversity and belonging. Director Aberhard.
Yes, the Diversity and Belonging Committee met on January 9th. And one thing that we discussed was the calendar for the next school year that we'll look at next month's board meeting, I think. And yeah, the main thing that the committee is working on right now is the Festival of Cultures that I hope everybody's aware of. It's happening on February 8th. It's a Thursday from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. We'll have 19 tables with 19 different cultures there that are presenting cultures in the form of food, games, anything you can imagine, really. We'll have 8 different performers this year. All of the ones that came last year, plus 5 new ones. We'll have 2 food trucks, a pizza food truck, and the dessert food truck. Yeah, it's gonna be a really cool event. And I think today in the Rundbrief went out a sign up, Genius link for any volunteers that would like to help out on the day of the event. It's gonna be a big thing because we invited the whole community. It has been and will be in various newspapers, newsletters. So it's really going out to a whole bunch of people, and we're all excited to host them here.
Thanks for all your work on that. And everyone that comes should bring a friend as well, so.
To volunteer to attend.
Yes.
Cleanup crew.
Both. Awesome, I'm really excited for that. All right, any questions for diversity and belonging? All right, next on the agenda is governance and leadership development. Director Hartman.
So first I'll talk about the policies that we've been looking at. At the last meeting, we talked about
these policies are not ones that are being put in front of the board for approval tonight, but they're listed in the meeting minutes. You should be able to click through them, and if you can't, let me know. And I will figure out how to fix that, and you should be able to see the changes too. 506 is our discipline and code of conduct, and there's a companion discipline complaint form. The discipline complaint form is brand new. That's a result of a legislative change requiring that we have this policy and process in place. We have talked about this one in 4 governance committee meetings so far. It's been, I guess would be considered its 3rd reading for the board tonight. So hopefully next month it will be ready to go. We have a handful of edits we're still working on. And I think a couple that are gonna go to the school's lawyer to ask about. So done a ton of work on that and on updating the policy and integrating some new changes, and then also just figuring out if it reads the way that this, we want it to read. The next kind of big heavy lift that we've been working on, we've talked about in 3 governance committee meetings is policy 413, which is the harassment and violence policy. There's more in the minutes, but basically that one's down to just a couple of small questions. In fact, I think if we had some time to work over the last week and a half, we probably could have finished that one up, but we will talk about that one at the March meeting and hopefully again, finalize that at the March board meeting. The form on that one is also still being reworked, so hopefully maybe by March that one will also be ready to go and we can tie that one up with a bow. The other ones that are have had a first reading through the committee, and both have now had a first reading with the board, are 514, which is the bullying prohibition policy, 418, which is the drug-free workplace, drug-free school policy. The biggest changes there are integrating all of the new cannabis stuff. 503 is the attendance policy. That one we don't have any changes, and that one I have forwarded to Nicole Krashel to look at. So we'll talk about that in March at the committee. And then 522, which is the student sex non-discrimination policy. There may be another one on the agenda. There are 3 that I'd like the board to consider approving tonight. I don't know the best way to do this. So the first one is policy 616, which is the school district accountability policy. Sorry, school district system accountability policy. This one is very broadly, it deals with implementation of the Minnesota academic standards and the federal Every Student Succeeds Act, and talks about the various things that the school will do every year to make that happen. Hopefully you could see the changes. Again, tell me if they're not coming through and I'll figure out a different way to do the changes. But we basically pulled through language to sync it up with new language in the law, to sync it up with some things that just at some point in the past maybe changed, so they're now synced up. And then at the end in 4.5.2, there's new reporting obligations just to have in here as to kind of educational to make it clear that they exist. The next one, policy 706, is acceptance and administration of gifts. This is a policy we've had around for a long time. This one, there's only one minor change in it. This was the changes in 5.2, and it really is just getting rid of a ambiguity or typo or something. Basically, we were dealing with gifts of real property in 2 sections and saying we were doing the same thing in both of those. So now, and this is how we haven't had to deal with it, but any gift of real property will now fall under section 5.3, which is kind of what it says anyway. So you can look at that, but I think that is a very boring, non-controversial change. And then the third policy is 215, which is the board of directors election policy. And on this one, we read it. I can't remember if we read it once or twice. I think we read it or talked about it in committee. I'm pretty sure we talked about it twice.
substantively, and we didn't have any changes. And then I tried to sketch out the election schedule. And I now have some suggestions that I'd like to propose to the board in terms of what the timeframes are for scheduling the nomination process and then the election window. And so maybe the easiest way, I don't know if it's to break it up and make a motion to approve the two that are easy and then discuss the second one. I'm looking at you, Chair.
I think we can do all three and discuss specific policies.
Okay. Then what's the best way to initiate conversation about 215? You want me to do it now or make
Yeah,
a motion?
go ahead
to
and make
accept?
a motion
To what?
to approve all three.
Okay, I would make a motion to approve all three of the policies I just noted.
Thank you, Director Hartman. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Albers. Discussion on the three policies at hand.
I'll launch in on 215 unless anybody has questions on.
Yeah, if you could just give a high level overview of your changes.
Yeah.
Or suggestions.
Yep. So the two guardrails we have to deal with are the bylaws require that we give notice of or start the call for nominations no less than 60 days prior to the election. And we have to give announce the nominees to the voting community no less than 30 days prior to the election. And I think ordinarily we work in a much longer time frame than that. I don't think we ever bump up right against those dates or those deadlines. So then in trying to implement this in 1.5, I'm just gonna go through and hit the changes the way they are in the policy. So in section 1.5, the first thing I'm recommending to change is it says the election shall occur over 1 week in the period no earlier than the third week of April. So trying to figure out, well, what's that mean? So I've suggested, and also the board has approved, at the last meeting, we approved April 25th to Friday, May 3rd. So Thursday, April 25th to Friday, May 3rd is our election window. That is more than a week. So I propose changing this to say the election shall occur over a reasonable period of at least 7 calendar days. So if we want to go to 8, which is what we've currently approved, we could do that. I don't think we have to put a maximum on there, so I didn't propose that. And then I said beginning no later than the third Monday in the week of April, in the month of in April, and ending no later than the last day of school, with a preference for ending no later than the third Monday in the week, in May. And so the purpose there is so that the new board member gets seated and can attend the May board meeting. This is also consistent with the last sentence in here, which says that the deadline for submitting ballots shall be on a day on which school is in session and is at least 7 calendar days after the date the ballots were first distributed. So that doesn't assume we're having a 1-week election either.
Just a clarification.
Yeah.
So the board member wouldn't be seated in May, but they're invited to attend.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah.
They attend in May and then they get seated in June. You're right, I misspoke. Then the next suggestion, actually, I'm not gonna go in order. I'm gonna skip over section 6 for a minute and go to section 7. I rewrote the January, February, March timeline to be more flexible instead of having it be here's what happens in January and then February and then March. And so here I integrated the 60 days prior to the start of the election, which is from our bylaws. A call for nomination is placed, the nominating team meets, that's the same. In 7.4.3, say the public call for nominations will remain open for a period of not less than some number of days and will close no later than 31 days prior to the first day of the election. We really never want to go to 31 days because we have to get notice out to members and it's just going to cause everybody to scramble. But I'm okay having that as the outer limit. This year, we're getting a later start for reasons we're going to talk about later. that deal with board size and how many seats we have open and who can fill them. I'm kind of thinking maybe 45 should be 30, even though we will typically have a much longer nominations period. And that's mostly because probably our call for nominations is gonna go out next Thursday, which is the 1st of February, I believe. And then we would be able to run the nomination period through some point in early mid-March, so that we have the nominations available for approval at the March board meeting. Are those normally done at the board meeting? Or is that separate? The board needs to approve the nominees.
At the board meeting.
Okay, so to have that in place, I think we can probably squeeze 45 days in, but it might be safer just to set it at 30 or 35 or 40.
So you're saying 7.4.3?
Yeah.
Would be 30 days?
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
And then I moved in 7.5.1, I moved the published in the next school newsletter, just it's sort of redundant with 7.7. So that's the timing I would propose on that. And then the other thing I think we need to solve for, and I did check with Yulia about how this has worked in the past, is we technically have an option for people to mail their ballots into the school. And the policy doesn't specify when we would, what the deadline would be for not counting ballots that come in the mail late. And so I would propose we put some time frame that says after the last day of the election, so let's say the election for now ends on May 2nd. How long are we gonna wait to see if something comes in the mail? Now, she has said everything has been done electronically for at least the past couple of years, probably since COVID started. She says she has not received a single paper ballot, but we do have that option. And so,
do you know if we're required to have that option?
I don't. I was just thinking about that too.
How about we retire paper?
You're not required by statute anymore.
We're not, okay. Because we do say we will mail a ballot to all community members, but if we have a way to community board members.
The
5.2.2.
the argument sometimes for continuing the paper ballots is just for families who may or may not have access to mobile devices. And so you may want to keep that option, not be, cutting certain, for access reasons, equity of access.
We could probably take mail out, right? So they have to drop it off at the school. They could request a paper ballot at the office and must return it to the office. Like that.
So in 5.2.4, it says voters may hand deliver completed ballots directly to the.
Yep.
If it does, should we just change it to shall or whatever?
Yes. And then we'll take out in 1.5 is where it says postmarked by or delivered to the voting location by 3:30. Okay. Okay. And then the one other weird thing is in 6.2 and in 6.13, there are references to Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I don't know if in some way former version of this, the election always ended on a Friday or something like that. We don't have that now. Does someone remember?
I think it's always been just one school week.
Okay.
At least, I don't know if that was ever like officially noted, but
Okay.
we've
So
always done it from a Monday to a Friday.
Okay. So our proposal for this year is a Thursday to a Friday. And so I don't know what we want to say about when the counting occurs. This would suggest it was a 2-day window. Do you know? Have you been involved in the counting
Yeah,
side of it?
I mean, it's electronic, and so it's technically just
Probably
done.
get updates, I've done those.
I mean, we've had moments where like people have voted incorrectly, depending on the composition of the board. Like it was 2 years ago, we had to go through and make sure that people had voted correctly because some had put too many parents in or whatever it was, and so we X'd those out. They didn't follow the directions, and there was some issues with trying to get the voting system online to be as specific as we needed it to be. And so there was some human error, but it's typically just been kind of sent out to the nomination committee.
So what if we said we would, the counting and processing of the results will occur during the 2 school days following the last day of the election?
I think that
Is
could
2
work.
days enough?
Yeah, especially if you're counting it to get it into the run brief, for example.
Yeah.
It's before, that deadline hits the following week.
Is that maybe what has driven the Tuesday to Thursday deadline to get it in the room brief?
Maybe, yeah, I don't know.
Doesn't really matter.
All right, so 2 school days. And then the other one is the board chair and school administrator will be provided with the results by 8 AM Thursday. So that's Tuesday. We could keep that as by 8 AM on the. It'd be good to tie it just to have it rolling. So if we're closing, for example, this year on a Friday, Monday, Tuesday is the tabulation. Say the day after the results are, by 8 AM, the day after the results were tabulated.
That makes sense.
Okay. Okay. And then, I think that was it. Let's see.
As always, I appreciate your attention to detail.
Yes, of course. I have one other suggestion though, or question / suggestion, and that's whether we want to push the election window by a week. Which would relieve some of the compression around the end of the nomination period needing to be, hold on, how was I thinking this? So for our April 25th, beginning of the election period, we'd have to have the announcement made prior to around March 25th. I didn't count 30 days, maybe it's March 24th, whatever date that is, which isn't going to allow us to do it in the March 28th run brief. We'd have to do an announcement earlier in the week after the board approves it at the March 22nd board meeting.
Yeah, how about we push the election out a week?
Okay,
I like
and
your
still
proposal.
Thursday to Friday, so that'd be Thursday, May 2nd to Friday, May 10th.
Sounds good.
Any reason not to do that? Still plenty of time to hit the May 30th board meeting. The results could go out in the
next run brief.
The next run brief, yeah. Because we'll close it on the Friday, May 10th. Results would be the 13th, 14th. And it'd go in the run brief on the 16th. I think. I did that right? Yeah? Okay.
It's during capstone, but I don't think that will matter for families or parents, right?
Just the 5 adults with them. But I can,
But they can vote online,
They
right?
can
Yeah.
access it.
oh yeah, I'll remind them.
I thought it was April. I thought it was April this year, no?
We're gone April 27th to May 13th.
Oh, so you would have been here on the 25th. Got it. Okay.
works still. We have access to email
Okay.
over there.
All right, so
All right, any further discussion?
Absentee ballot.
or on the other two policies.
All right. Hearing none, all those in favor of approving these three policies, policy 616, policy 706, and policy 215,
As amended.
As amended.
as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Nay?
No, I
Oh,
didn't mean to.
okay.
Aye.
Just making sure.
Let's just say aye every time.
Trying to keep us
Come
alive.
on, one.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much, Director Hartman. Do we need to vote to change the week that we're doing the election? Was
Yes.
that a vote last time?
Yes.
Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I make a motion to have the election window run from, can someone check, May 2nd, Friday, Thursday, May 2nd to Friday, May 10th. Are those the right dates? Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Director Hartman. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Director Hyde. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. We have an updated election date. All right. I know we had some other things to discuss, but we can do that in the committee of the whole. Okay, just double checking. Was there a finance meeting this month?
There was not.
Okay. Do you have any updates as the treasurer?
No, I do not have any updates since our last meeting. We will be meeting in person for a February meeting for whoever wants to join us.
What's the date and time?
It will be February 6th at 6 o'clock.
Awesome. All right,
Be
and
there
our
at least
final,
later.
our final committee is Committee of the Whole. We met as a full board in our working session to discuss some of these things in detail, such as what should our board size be next year? We've been operating as a board of 11 for 3 to 4 years. Prior to that, we were a board of 9 members. And looking at our composition and the fact that we have 4 board members rolling off, and we have another board member who is Jennifer Kwan Dobbs, is planning to resign after 2 years of her 3-year term at the June meeting. Her work schedule has gotten harder than she can spend time on the board. So that would create another opening. So we talked about actually 3 years ago planning when we could go back to a board of 9, and with the strength of our current administration, I think that's a good time that we can do that. We had expanded to increase our volunteer capacity in running new committees that were created. And so I'll make a motion to set our board size for the school year 2024, 2025 to 9 members. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Hartman. Discussion.
So what is the composition of the 9 then? Is it 5 to 6 parents, right?
Yeah. There'd be 5 parents and 1 teacher would be remaining. And so then we'd have 3. So So both our community members are rolling off. One teacher is rolling off and one parent. And then going down to 9, we'll have 3 openings. And so we could have that open to any type of board member. We need to have 1 community member voted on. But other than that, we could have a teacher and a parent or 2 teachers. So there's some flexibility there. And by starting 1 spot over again as a new 3-year term, puts each year is 3 members rolling off and 3 being voted on. So we're back on that cadence that we wanted to have. So we kind of get rebalanced.
If the goal is to have 2 community members, 2 teachers, and 5 parents.
That's the target goal in our bylaws. The target is not mandated.
Yeah, but will we always have the 2 community members rolling off the same year? Because that might get difficult. Or is there a way to stagger that?
There is a way to stagger.
No. I mean, it's fine. We have a good list of people that we can tap. But yeah.
I'm not, if you're trying to look for, I know of a board that has like an A, B, C, D, E, F, and G seats. They've got them very specific, and that's how they ensure that they never have 2 people rolling off of the same category. You can set it up to ensure that that doesn't happen. I just meant from a procedural standpoint, there's a way to do it.
Well, it would be set up if we only elect 1 community member this year. And then in a different year.
Strategically plan on 1 week. Yeah, that makes sense.
And in that system, then like seat E might be, because like seat A has to be a parent, seat B has to be a teacher, and seat C has to be community. That's statutory. And then you can say seat D could be parent or community, and then E. So that way you can keep your targets, but still allow for.
Gotta rewrite the policy again.
No, my love.
No. Well, yeah, it's in the bylaws, or it could be in the bylaws.
Yeah,
It also could just be something you use as a guide.
Trying to find that spreadsheet I sent you guys.
Oh,
you just sent it.
options, yeah.
What was it called? Well, I want to share it on the screen.
Sure, I can share.
You want to share?
Yeah, I can just share it. That's okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think it's much easier to visualize it.
Hold, please. Yeah.
All right. Here.
I am good.
Let me know if I need to.
So start on the left, we'll go over our current configuration. So we're currently 11-member board. And you can see the board member type. We do have 2 teachers and 2 community members, and the balance are parents. You can see when each board member's term ends and which term they're serving, 1 or 2, and our bylaws have a limit of 2 terms. And so you can see the spring plan of who's rolling off and 1 resignation. And so then if you scroll to the right, this is going to a 9-member board. So the first scenario, so it's showing the current members that would still be there, and then the 3 open positions. And to meet statute requirements, one has to be a community member. And then slot 8 and 9 could be community parent or teacher. And then if you go to option B, to meet the target composition we described in our bylaws, we would have 5 parents, 2 teachers, and 2 community members. So we would need to recruit 1 teacher and 2 community members. And if you go to option C, let's see, so this is if we prioritize having 2 teachers on the board and maintain flexibility in recruiting the 9th member. We would have 2 teachers, 1 community member, and 1 that is anything. Anybody could run.
It's almost the seat thing that Karen was just talking about. We just have the numbers on it.
Yeah, if you track the seats, that's how you can ensure you always have your term ends and your categories lined up the way you need them. That way Kirsten and Richard can't switch places. You have to stay seat 1.
Although that might mess it up with people like me, I transitioned from parent to community member, which is
Yeah, you
also
have-
addressed in the board, in the book.
You
Yeah,
have to
but
take a
we
new
had to
seat.
have, we had to take into consideration that there was that ability
Right.
for that to happen, so we just look at the seat, and then we could just move you to a different seat and elect the seat that you're gonna be.
Just like when
So
you
there'd have
appoint
to be
somebody in the middle of the
third.
year, you just move them to a different seat.
Got it.
All right. I don't know if you guys want to pick one of those or we just want to recruit as many people to run as we can and see the top 3 winners.
Well, for sure, we would take the top community member because
Yep.
we'd have to fill one with a community member,
Yep,
period. And
the other 2 could be open.
then the other 2 would be the top vote-getters.
I think that sounds reasonable. Okay.
Would we ever, like, based on who applies, would we ever, and the skill sets we need, would we ever kind of go back and say, like, this is our, I guess you can't once you have your nominations, but I'm just thinking of that, like, list of skills that we needed, and do we gain certain skills that we're lacking by prioritizing, a teacher or a community member or a parent this round? I guess that would just be one thing that I would think about.
Yeah, so the skills that we discussed we need as a board. I'll find that document. We're legal. This director is rolling off. She
I don't know if we put her in a different seat, maybe keep her for everything.
Diversity and belonging was another skill. Trying to find my notes.
There was finance.
Yeah, finance. We're looking for someone to kind of shadow the treasurer this year or next year. And then take over when Director Hyde rolls off. So that's an important one. But there was one more.
Fundraising.
That's right. Fundraising. So we need several skills. All right, is there further discussion on the size of the board? All right, all those in favor of having a board of 9 next school year, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, Director Hartman, you can send out communication now. clarity of what type of people we're looking for. The last thing we talked about is the calendar. And so we did a kind of overview discussion at the committee of the whole for the calendar for next year. And let me share my screen. We won't vote on this until next, until next month. And next month we'll also have Esther Noy here to present. Okay. But I wanted the those watching to be able to have a look at the calendar, and please write the board if you have any feedback regarding the school calendar.
I'll make note that I wrote to Esther about the things that we had discussed about just updating, saying, and that diversity and belonging had discussed about adding in holidays and then clarifying the last day of school. And so those should be reflected as well.
Yes, I wanted to mention that. I saw that the last day of school is described as a full day, June 11th. So that yeah, it's different from tradition, right? We've typically had half days on that last day. Last year we had a full day because we needed to make up snow days. Crazy enough.
Unheard of.
But maybe we can follow up with Esther on if that's needed to meet our hours.
She mentioned in her email to me that it's the easiest day to get hours back. And so having it is helpful, but obviously that does break from tradition. So I don't know if keeping it as a full day initially or keeping it as a half day initially is.
So the idea is to have it as a full day and then maintain flexibility.
I think that's
by
maybe
going
the
down to
understanding.
half a
I'm
day
not
if
sure.
we can. So
I would think you could do it either way. You could say it's a half day and then if you have to add time back, add time back.
Yeah.
Because normally we wouldn't do that, add time back.
we did last year.
Well, you did last year, but this year you've got
And that was hard.
We have three extra days built in, plus 2
Plus we have
e-learning days.
e-learning.
Yeah, last year you didn't have that.
No.
So I think this calendar probably has that from what I remember, the new one. I think it has the extra days plus the e-learning days.
Yeah.
And rescheduling the buses might or might not be easy. Right.
I think they could do that with enough.
We do that.
Enough notice.
Well, we do it the rest of the year, right?
Half days.
Half day buses.
Yeah, but that
Oh,
was
if
the
you-
issue
if
when
you-
we had to add days and whatever. And,
Yeah.
was whether we could get the transportation.
Right.
Because their schedules are set. Probably going from a full day to a half day maybe is more realistic, but I don't know.
Yeah, probably for transportation,
I
yeah.
mean, to be able to reschedule it, but.
They're more likely to be available in the, like a field trip kind of request. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can always move it to half day in March when we know we're not gonna need it for a snow day. Or on May 5th, which is the latest
We'll have
I've
to-
ever seen it snow.
Conversation about jinxing it.
I do feel like the e-learning really like kind of takes a lot of that risk away.
Something I'm personally curious about is the value of the fall break being a week long when we have a week off in November for Thanksgiving. I recognize teachers are working Monday and Tuesday that week. But most schools just have the MEA weekend of the 17th, like Thursday, Friday off for MEA. And I'm wondering if a reasonable trade-off would be to shorten our school year by not having the 9th, 10th, and 11th as school days. And we could end on June 6th. Just because I've heard a lot of, over the years, some concern about how long our school year goes into the summer. So that would be a way to change that. I know Minneapolis Public is trying to shorten their school year, so right now we both end that second week of June, but I think they're going to try to push it to the 6th. And the week off at Thanksgiving is new as of 2 years ago. So I just thought it's a good time to like reflect on, does that make sense for having 2 weeks off?
I think
in the fall?
oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I think additionally, it's just like, it's a lot of break for families in a pretty short period of time. So I think that's another consideration in addition to, I echo your sentiments with like possibly shortening the school year a little bit. But.
And so I say that recognizing that the calendar committee conducted a survey and parents were able to give feedback. I think teachers were able to give feedback. And I think fall break was I'm not sure how they worded it. I have to look at it again. But people liked fall break majority. But I'm wondering what people would say if like they knew what a trade-off could be. And like, I just think it'd be interesting to see their priorities.
To make a point of order, that is 9:32.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, we don't have to take any action on this, so I can stop that. And is there any new business? Otherwise, thank you all for your participation tonight, and the meeting is adjourned without objection.
How do you know?
Luca was very, like.
Why do you have?
No, that was good.
Karen, what's next?
Yeah.
I'm gonna retire in 3 years.